Hello, my lovely students. It's Mrs. Bodell. We are in our MyMath book, Chapter 6, Lesson 11, 6.1. We are on page number 443, page 443. And if you see this ribbon saying, let's wrap it up, oh, very pun intended. If you see this ribbon with a happy face on it, you know you're on the right page. The title of our lesson is to divide decimals by whole numbers. And we have our essential question that we've been working on this whole chapter, which is how is multiplying and dividing decimals similar to multiplying and dividing whole numbers? Well, we've done the multiplying of decimals, and we know it's pretty similar, and now we're going to divide decimals. So here's our dividing by a whole number. Here's example 1. There are 8.4, 8 4/10 of a meter left on a roll of ribbon. Nancy wants to cut the ribbon in half. She's dividing it in half, cutting it in half. What will be the size of each piece of ribbon? Well, 8.4 divided by 2. That's what the question is, 8.4, and she wants to cut it in half, and we know that if we get half of something, we're dividing it into 2. Our estimate, instead of 8.4 divided by 2, we can say, oh, that's about 8. 8 divided by 2 we know is 4. So let's see if we can get something based on that estimate. The first number always goes inside. It is always the dividend. First number always goes in the house. 8.4, 8 4/10 divided by 2. I hate that they did not have you write that there, but if you want to trace over it, that would be awesome. So what we're going to do is our first step, we're going to check and see if there's a decimal in our divisor. There's not. There's an invisible one right there, but it's all the way to the right of the number, and so we're good. So our first step is we move this decimal from here to the top. It's around Christmas time, and I had a couple students a few years ago talk about how you have to put the Christmas tree light on the roof. So you have to put the Christmas lights on the roof, and so it's down on the ground, and you got to put it up on the roof so everybody can see it, and you can plug it in. And then all you do is you divide as you would with whole numbers. So you're going to go, how many times can 2 fit into 8? Oh, I know that math fact. That's a 4. Remember your steps. Divide, multiply, subtract, and bring down. So we've got divide, multiply. 4 times 2 is 8. Subtract. 8 minus 8 is 0. And bring down. Bring down my 4. Now I do it all again. How many times does 2 fit into 4? Oh, I know that math fact as well. That's 2. Multiply. 2 times 2 is 4. I subtract. 4 minus 4 is 0. There's nothing left to bring down, and so I'm done. Now, because I have a decimal point here, I'm actually not going to use remainders anymore, but that's a lesson for another day. So my answer is 4.2. Each piece of ribbon will be 4 2/10 long. And now we can check our work using multiplication. So we remember that when we multiply, we don't have to line up the decimal. So we just put the one with the larger digits on top. 2 times 2 is 4. 2 times 4 is 8. I'm done with my multiplication. So now I fix my decimals. Let's say I go one spot, 8.4. Is that what I started with? Yes. That was 8.4. Or you can use a model. We have 8.4. So here's 1 whole, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8 wholes. These are 100 blocks. They're whole. They're 100 out of 100. And then these 10 frames, these are tenths. So there's 1/10, and there's another tenth, which is 2/10, and there's another tenth, which is 3/10, and another tenth, which is 4/10. And if I divided them equally into 2 groups, as they've done here, you can see we have 1, 2, 3, 4. And 2/10, and 1, 2, 3, 4. It should be the same because we're dividing equally, and 2/10. So our answer is 4.2. Okay, feel free to pause it here if you need more time. If not, we are going to turn the page. Okay, example 2. We have $6.54 here divided by 12. So this is imagining that you have $6.54. And you and your closest 11 friends, you and 12 people, or 12 people total, are dividing it up evenly. And we're going to round it to the nearest cent. We're going to round it to the nearest cent. So let's write our problem. I know it hasn't done it for us, but the first number always goes in the house. Which number always goes in the house? The first number always goes in the house, 6.54. And you'll notice they have a 0 there, and we'll get there in just a second. divided by 12. Now, we have to deal with our decimal at the beginning. Deal with our decimal. So, let's see, my camera froze there. There we go. We have to deal with my decimal. And so the decimal is to the right of my 12 there. It's all the way as far right as it can be, so we're good. So, I've got to take that decimal and put it up on top of the roof of the house. My Christmas light has to go on the roof. I normally put it right on the line, but they kind of have it above, so it's okay. But I like to put it right on that line so I know that I put my Christmas lights on the roof. And now we just divide as we would with whole numbers. So I'm just going to pretend that the decimal doesn't exist right now. I don't even need to think about this being 6.5. I can just think of this as a 6 and a 5. So you're going to divide like you normally would. How many times can 12 fit into 6? It can't, right? 0 times. So then we move over. Remember, we have to place that first 0. So we move over and we say, how many times can 12 fit into 65? Well, I know my 12 facts. So let's see, 12 times 4 is 48. That's not quite big enough. 12 times 5 is 60. 12 times 6 is 72. That's too big. So it's going to be 12 times 5. And remember, your steps are divide, multiply, subtract, and bring down. And so we just divided. Now we multiply. 5 times 12 is 60. We know that math fact. Subtract is our next step. 5 minus 0 is 5. You notice they didn't put anything here. 6 minus 6. You can certainly put a 0 there. We did subtract. Now we bring down. 54. 54. So I know that 5 times 12 was 60. What was 4 times 12? 48. So yeah, let's try that. 4 times 12 is 48. And now we subtract. I can't take 8 away from 4. I have to borrow. My 5 becomes a 4, and I take that 10 and disperse it over here, and I make 14 minus 8, which is 6. Now, normally, I would say there's nothing left for you to bring down. You're done. You have a remainder. But the problem is you can't have a remainder when you already have a decimal. Now, if you think about this, remember what a remainder was. A remainder was something less than your divisor. It was less than one whole divisor would fit in it. And we're already at parts. Because of this decimal, we're already not even at 1. We're at 0.54. So what we do is we annex a 0 in decimal problems until we end up with nothing in our subtraction problems. So we're going to annex a 0 in our problem and bring that down. And you'll see that, look at this, 12 goes into 60 evenly, right? 5 times. So now I do 5 times 12 is 60. 60 minus 60 is 0. Now I can stop. There's nothing left. I could add a 0 if I wanted. I could annex another 0, but I'm going to keep getting 0. 12 fits into 0 0 times. 0, I subtract, bring down a 0. You're just going to keep getting zeros infinitely here. And that's because zeros infinitely go to the right in a decimal. So because there's nothing left to bring down and I ended on a 0, that means I can finish my problem there. So the answer I got was 0.545, 0.545, or 545 thousandths. But remember, we were talking money here, so it said to round it to the nearest cent. Well, these are my tenths, and these are my hundredths, both with the like you're spitting on someone in front of you. And we know that in cents, this is the closest one. So I'm going to find my target. These are my cents. Look next door. 5 or higher, go back and raise the score. So this 4 is going to turn into a 5. So my answer is that if I took my $6.54 and divided it with 12 people, 55 cents would be the answer. Rounded to the nearest cent, it's 55 cents. To check our work, we can use multiplication. Now, don't use your rounding one, but you can see they took the answer, 0.545, 545 thousandths, and multiplied it by the divisor, multiplied it by 12. They did the math. 5 times 2 is 10, 4 times 2 is 8, plus 1 is 9, 2 times 5 is 10, crossed off their ones, immediately brought down a 0, 1 times 5 is 5, 1 times 4 is 4, 1 times 5 is 5, finished with the tens. Now we add, 0 plus 0 is 0, 9 plus 5 is 14, carry the 1, 4 plus 1 is 5, 1 plus 5 is 6, and then you go back and deal with your decimal. 1, 2, 3 spaces, 1, 2, 3 spaces. So we got our original answer, our dividend, and so that means we got it correct. Okay, now let's do some guided practice. Okay, we have 48.33, 48 and 33 hundredths divided by 3. So we don't have to, there's no decimal here, it's all the way to the right. So we're going to check our decimal here in the dividend, and we're going to move it up to the roof. We need the Christmas lights on the roof. Christmas lights on the roof, or holiday lights on the roof, Hanukkah lights on the roof, whichever one you want. And now, after we've moved that decimal, we can divide like normal. So I'm going to go, how many times can 3 fit into 4? Just once. Now I multiply. 1 times 3 is 3. I subtract. 4 minus 3 is 1. And I'm being very careful and neat to line up my work here and write nice and small. You can use your tracker, your practice sheet if you have it. Now I bring down my 8. Very careful to keep it right below the 8. How many times does 3 go into 18? Oh, I know that one, Mrs. Bodell. I know my math facts. 6 times 3 is 18. That's right. We multiply. 6 times 3 is 18. I subtract. 18 minus 18 is nothing. And now I bring down a 3. How many times does 3 fit into 3? Oh my goodness, 1 time. 1 times 3 is 3. I subtract. I have 3 minus 3 is 0. I bring down my 3. How many times does 3 go into 3? Just 1 time. 1 times 3 is 3. I subtract. My answer is 0. I've ended on 0 and there's nothing left to bring down, so I can stop here. My answer is 16.11. 16 and 11. Okay, next problem number 2, you guys. My decimal on this 2 is invisible. It's already all the way almost touching my problem here, so I can skip it. And I'm going to go to my decimal in here. Oh, I've got to move that decimal up on the roof. Get my Christmas light on the roof, ready for Christmas. So I can now divide like normal, just pretend the decimal doesn't exist. How many times does 2 go into 8? Oh, I know my math facts. That's a 4. 4 times 2 is 8. 8 minus 8 is 0. And I bring down the 8. Now, what if I didn't remember that that was the math fact? Yep, you can use a multiplication chart. You can count it out. You can skip count. 2 into 8 is 4 again. 4 times 2 is 8. I subtract 0. I have a 0 and there's nothing left to bring down, so I'm done with my decimal problem. My answer is 4.4. 4 and 4 tenths. So let's do this talk math. Is the quotient, the answer to a division problem, of 9.3 divided by 15 greater than 1 or less than 1? Explain without calculating. Ooh. So let's see, if I have 9.3 or about 9, let's say video game controllers, since that's here, and I have 15 people that I need to divide it up on, is everybody going to get at least 1? No. Those 15 people are going to get less than 1. I'd have to chop these remote controllers in half, which would be really sad. Or think about it this way, if you have 9 pizzas and there's 15 people, can everybody have a 1 whole pizza? Nope. You'd have to divide it up and they'd get less than 1 each. Okay, independent practice, we're going to do a few of these. In fact, we're going to start on number 6. 12.4 divided by 8. There's no decimal point here. It's already touching my division sign, so I just have to worry about this one. I got to put that Christmas light on the roof, so I move it up to the top, straight up. You can't go crooked. You got to go straight up. You can even draw a line if that's helpful to you. Straight up. Now I just divide like normal. Can 8 go into 1? No. You can put a 0 there to hold your place if you want. Can 8 go into 12? Yep, just 1 time. 1 times 8 is 8. 12 minus 8 is 4. Bring down. How many times does 8 go into 44? Let's see, I know my math facts. 8 times 5 is 48 times 6 is 48. That's going to be too big, so we've got to do a 5. 5 times 8 is 40. I subtract 44. Now, normally I put a remainder, but I can't put a remainder because I have a decimal. I cannot put a remainder. You cannot put a remainder. I'm taking the time to write this because it's important. With a decimal. The decimal is already a part. It's already a leftovers. Already less than 1. So you cannot put a decimal with a remainder. So I didn't end on a 0 though. So that means I have to annex a 0 and bring it down. Ooh, that one I know. How many times does 8 go into 40? 5 times. 5 times 8 is 40. 40 minus 40 is 0. I ended on a 0. I don't have to keep bringing anything down. My answer is 1.55. Okay, let's look at this one. 14 into 14 and 1400ths. Ooh, lots of 14s. Okay, so my decimal's already touching there. That 14 point, the decimal is already touching my division sign. So I'm going to just look at my decimal in my dividend. It's down here. I got to put it up on the roof. Put my Christmas light on the roof. Now I divide like normal. Can 14 go into 1? No. Can 14 go into 14? Yeah, one time. How many multiply? 1 times 14. Ooh, I know because of the identity property of multiplication that it is itself. 14 minus 14 equals 0. Bring down. Can 14 fit into 1? Got to do 0. You can multiply here. 0 times 14 is 0. 1 minus 0 is 1. And now bring down. How many times does 14 go into 14? Once. 1 times 14 is 14. 0 remainder, or 0 answer to my subtraction problem, and there's nothing left to bring down. My answer is this. This looks a little funny, 0101, but you know that is 1 and 100th. You don't have to worry about that 0 or as many zeros as you go that way. 1 and 100th. Let's do number 8. My decimal is already touching the division sign. It's 11 point something, 11.0. It's 11 holes. So I just got to move my decimal up to the roof, put that Christmas light on the roof, let it shine bright for all to see, and now divide like normal. 11 can't go into 5. Can 11 go into 55? Ooh, yes it can, 5 times. 5 times 11 is 55. Subtract 55 minus 55. That's a 0. Bring down a 4. Can 11 go into 4? No, 11 is too big. Put my 0, multiply. 0 times 11 is 0. 4 minus 0 is 4, and I bring down my next 4. How many times does 11 go into 44? Oh, I hope my camera's not been off this whole time. I'm so sorry if it was. You'll have to pause it here and go back to do that work. 11 goes into 44 4 times. 4 times 11 is 44. Subtract. There's no balance left over. There's nothing left to bring down. My answer is 5 and 400ths, 5.04. Okay, we're going to do a couple more. You guys have been hanging with me. We're almost done. We're almost done. We are going to do these ones. 7 and 2100ths divided by 7. Which number goes in the house? The first number goes in the house. 7 and 2100ths divided by 7. This is a whole 7, so that means the decimal's right there. It's already right next to my division problem like it should be. So I just got to take care of the other decimal. First, I got to throw that Christmas light up on the roof. And when you have your own pencil and you write the problem, you can feel free to erase it at that point if that helps you. But just don't make a mistake like Mrs. Bodell just did and erase all your numbers either. Here we go. Divide like normal. 7 goes into 7. How many times? Once. 1 times 7 is 7. I subtract. 7 minus 7 is 0. I bring down. How many times does 7 fit into 2? Oh, it can't. It's too big. It's a 0 times. 0 times 7 is 0. 2 minus 0 is 2. Bring down. How many times does 7 go into 21? 3 times. 3 times 7 is 21. I'm running out of room. 21 minus 21 is 0. I finished on a 0. So I don't have to worry about annexing anything. I can be done. My answer here is 1 300ths, 1.03. Let's do this one. 6 point. Oh, it says round to the nearest tenth, Mrs. Bodell. Mrs. Bodell needs to read the directions. If I round to the nearest tenth, where's my tenths? Tenths, hundredths. Find your target. Look next door. 5 or higher. Raise the score. It's not 5 or higher, so this stays the same. So rounded to the nearest tenth, my answer is 1.0. Let's do number 10. 6, I need to raise it up a little higher. 6 and 28/100 divided by 4. The decimal here is already next to the house, so I can leave it alone, but this one has to be thrown up to the top. Get up on the top of that roof. Christmas light, shine bright for all to see. Now we divide as normal. How many times does 4 go into 6? 1 time. 1 times 4 is 4. 6 minus 4 is 2. Bring down. How many times does 4 go into 22? 4 times 5 is 20. 4 times 6 is 24. That's too big, so it's got to be 4 times 5. 5 times 4 is 20. Subtract. 22 minus 20 is 2. Bring down. How many times does 4 go into 28? Ooh, I know that one. I know my math fact. 7. 7 times 4 is 28. I've ran out of digits. I've ended on a 0. That means I can stop. But it does want me to round to the nearest tenth. Here's my tenths, hundredths, ones, tenths, hundredths. Find your target. Look next door. 5 or higher, go back and raise the score. So 1 point, and the 5 turns into a 6. 1.6. We're going to do one more problem on this page. One more problem on this page. Right here, 276.2, 276 and 2/10 divided by 5. My decimal is invisible right there. It's already next to my house, so I get to leave that one alone. This one has to be thrown up to the top. Not thrown up, like, whoa, but put up on the top. And so we're going to put our Christmas light straight up and put it there. Put it nice and big so you don't forget about it. Now we divide like normal. How many times does 5 go into 2? It doesn't. It's too big. How many times does 5 go into 27? Ooh, 5 times 5 is 25. 5 times 6 is 30. That's too big. So 5 times 5. 5 times 5 is 25. And now I subtract. 7 minus 5 is 2. 2 minus 2 is nothing. I'm being very careful to be neat. I have to write really small if I'm not going to use a separate sheet of paper. Bring down my 6. How many times does 5 go into 26? Well, it's the same thing, right? It's 5 again. 5 times 5 is 25. I know that. I just did that one. It's got to be right under it. Now I subtract 6 minus 5 is 1. 2 minus 2 is 0. And now I bring down my 2. How many times does 5 go into 12? 5 times 1 is 5. 5 times 2 is 10. 5 times 3 is 15. That's too many. So 5 times 2. 5 times 2 is 10. I subtract. 2 minus 0 is 2. 1 minus 1 is 0. And now there's nothing left to bring down, but I can't put a remainder. So I'm going to annex a 0 and bring a 0 down. Because remember, 276.2 is the same as 276.2000000, right? We can put as many there as we want. How many times does 5 go into 20? Oh, I know that fact. It's a 4. 4 times 5 is 20. 20 minus 20 is nothing. I've ended on a 0. I have nothing left to bring down. That's my answer. But it does want me to round to the nearest tenth. We have tens, ones, tenths, spit on your paper, hundredths, tenths, right here. Find your target, look next door, 5 or higher, go back and raise the score. It's not higher than 5. So my answer is going to be 55. I write everything up to my target, and then I decide if that target stays the same or goes up. It stays the same. 55.2. Say to Mrs. Bodell, write on your paper, I can do this. I am learning. Write that on your paper. These are hard things, my friends. You guys are getting it. You guys are going to get it. Don't stress. If you're having a hard time with it, let me know. Pop into Zoom anytime. I'm there from 8 to 12, 8:30 to 12, excuse me. Let me know if you need some help.